Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with the Leadership newspaper. The major story here says, post-election crisis escalate in APC Labour Party. And we have some riders. Enugu APC suspends Onyema, Osita, Nnamani, Chime. Labour Party faction names Apapa as acting chairman amid tight security. I am still in charge, Abure insists, gets confidence vote of state chairman. You find all the details on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. We'll move now to the front page of Nigerian News Direct. Post-election trauma, confusion as Labour Party leaders fight dirty over positions. Post-election trauma, confusion as Labour Party leaders fight dirty over positions. And the writer here says, Party National Working Committee declares replacement. Party National Working Committee declares replacement. Nigerian newspaper. Interim government unlawful, treasonable. Defense headquarters is warning. Those advocating interim national government are trying to be mischievous. Democracy best option for Africa, says President Muhammadu Buhari. Mike.
All right, I have the first news here, and it says, interim government, military breaks silence, warns proponents to desist. And it says it's unconstitutional, plotters mischievous, and won't succeed. But we have a president-elect. The presidency stands. That's what the military is saying. And that's a story on page of the first news. Daily Trust is focusing on removal and the government's $800 million amount, just 6% of 6 trillion naira annual subsidy. One-off support, right? To be 2,000 naira one-off support for citizens per citizen. No less than in 2022. These are riders on the story there. From there, let's go to Business Day. All right, Business Day says UBA stock hits one month high ahead of Abuja Disco $122 million sale. The Guardian newspaper is next, and it says National Stadium of Shame, Filth, 31 months after $1 million facelift. Right? And you can see the picture of the National Stadium in Abuja behind there. And that's the focus of the story there. From there, let's go to Nature News, which is the last we're looking at now. Stakeholders demand implementation of the 2021 Climate Change Act. Stakeholders demand implementation of the 2021 Climate Change Act. That's what the Nature News has. Veronica?
Mike, let's begin with this story on the front page of some of the papers this morning, talking about the Defense Headquarters responding to the calls from some quarters for interim government. And they are saying that it's mischievous, and those who are making this call know that it is unconstitutional and that it is also a treasonable offense. And then somewhere else we see the president talking about how democracy is what is best for Africa, knowing that some countries within Africa have been faced with coups and counter coups, and that democracy is what is best, and that is what he stands for.
The point that it became necessary for the military to put out a statement regarding where they stand and what can be and cannot be tolerated. Absolutely. Now, the point there is, when civilians are involved in politics and so on, it is not the place of the military to get involved, because it's a democratic issue, so they should go ahead, because their constitutional role is to defend the country's territorial integrity. However, anything that would truncate the process of democracy and so on, the military, of course, is a force that can be used to ensure that things go in a certain way, especially when it has to do with the constitution through which, or from where all powers and legitimacy springs from. So it became necessary because of some of the feelers that Nigerians are getting from here and there. Recall that the DSS had come to say, issued a statement some time ago that
it was true.
It was true, exactly, that there were persons
together,
plotting and planning, looking forward to an interim government, an interim national government. And that would not stand. The DSS works with the military, works with security. They are all part of the security agencies that would ensure that democracy remains. So if you listen to the DSS at that time and listen to the military now and listen to what the president is saying about democracy and so on the African continent, they are all connected.
Yeah.
So it is telling you that institutions of government are speaking in one voice, letting you know that the issues of interim national government cannot stand because it is alien to the Constitution. The point there is, if anybody has any grievance from the process of election, there are laid down procedures to follow. And that is why those who are aggrieved from the election have been told, go to court and wait for the court.
Now, that aspect of
wait. That aspect of wait seems not to be going down well with those who are aggrieved because from some comments, they are already preempting the courts by feeling that they may not get what they want from the court. Because if they actually have confidence in the court and are going to wait, we wouldn't need all of this.
And the question will be, why did you go to the courts in the first place?
No, of course. So it could be maybe to fulfill all righteousness. Because you hear people talking, you hear some of them talking about mass protests. You hear, in fact, some of them have written letters and written different things to made different statements to even foreign governments, United Nations, and so on and so forth. So calling on them to intervene by one way or the other. So, but the point there is that Nigeria remains a sovereign entity, that the United Nations, the United States, United Kingdom, Europe, whatever the thing is, or whoever country it is, do not have the right to interfere in the domestic affair of Nigeria. Of course, friends of Nigeria can nudge Nigeria as a way of influence to say, okay, why should we do this, or why don't we do it this way? That is allowed at the level of diplomacy, international diplomacy, and so on. But interfering in anything that has to do with domestic, which especially when it is a domestic affair of a country, does not stand. If there is a dispute between one country and another, and, you know, international organizations or other countries want to intervene as a way of settling them, that's totally a different case. Absolutely. But this is totally an internal issue of Nigeria. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter. Yeah. So that whatever grievance you have, take it through the system. There's the election tribunal. From there's the Court of Appeal. And then from the appeal, you can go to the Supreme Court. Whatever the thing is, we've had confidence in the system, and it should be allowed to go that way.
To take its course.
If it doesn't take its course that way, take it to God, and then prepare and strategize for the next election. That is how everybody is supposed to wait and see how it goes. So the military is resonating the message from their commander-in-chief, letting everybody know that the issues of interim national government cannot stand. It's alien to Nigeria, as much as we've had it before, but it is alien to a democratic setting, it's alien to the Constitution, and cannot be allowed to operate in Nigeria.
I believe that this will put to rest some of the concerns that some persons who are not making the score have, hearing from the Defense Headquarters now. And so perhaps, again, the matter of history, there are those who did not understand what happened at the time that we had this interim government.
You're very right.
To understand what the impact it had on the country.
The point there is, when you have an interim national government, whatever the thing is, no country recognizes it. Because our Constitution is recognized by the United Nations. It's recognized by other international, other countries of the world, as the case may be. So when you have a situation where there is an illegality in the country, the United Nations and all other countries will not deal with you, because as far as they are concerned, you're not a legitimate government, you're not acceptable to the people that are citizens of the country. So at the time we had the interim government in 1993, was a system, was a time of aberration where the world was just watching just watching Nigeria. And we lost on so many grounds when it comes to that. Even you see the issue of military. Even when the military was there, you will hear calls from other countries of the world telling Nigeria, to ensure that the process of democratization is set in motion. We have seen that all at different times, putting pressure, mounting pressure on military governments to ensure that there's a democratic process that goes on. We've been seeing what has happened in Mali and some other countries of West Africa, where Nigeria, the ECOWAS, and even other international organizations put pressure, a lot of pressure on the military to ensure that they set up a motion for a democratic process. Yeah. So that's the thing. The point there is that you lose out on all fronts if you have a system, an interim government, except a situation where there is an obvious situation, like either a natural disaster of a magnitude that maybe the entire government is involved in it somehow, or maybe there's a revolution where the whole country becomes ungovernable in that sense. But if that is not the situation, it's just an election, then the issue of interim national government cannot stand. And in fact, because the interim national government is so illegal that it is not even mentioned in the Constitution. To think of, okay, this is the circumstance by which an interim national government should be put in place. Right. It is not even recognized by any means at all. So we may only try to imagine a situation where it could, but the point there is it remains illegal from the beginning to the end. And in the 21st century, where we are right now, from the election that we just saw, as much as, there are room for improvement here and there, it doesn't call for an interim national government by any means and by any stand.
Right. As much as you are aggrieved, of course, there will definitely be winners and losers in any election. So if you are saying you are aggrieved, like we mentioned earlier, the courts are there, and you have to wait for the processes to run its course, then you know what to do afterwards. We have seen where litigations happen and some mandates returned. Yeah. And that is why we have off-season elections. So trust the process, trust the system. That is what we must begin to tell Nigerians as it is. Trust the system. Yes, you may doubt. It may not go in your favor, but then learn the lessons.
But why doubt the system? Why doubt an institution that that hasn't come out with a judgment or a verdict? Why preempt it? The point there is that if you're not satisfied, yes, it is allowed.
Evidence you have evidence beyond reasonable doubt.
Collate all that evidence and take it to the court.
It is already.
Even the issue of interpretation, because there's also the issue of
matter of technicalities and all of this. Yeah.
The issue of 25% two-thirds majority and all of that, Abuja status of Abuja and so on. Yeah. All of those things are part of it. Collate all of them with all of the lawyers and take it to court and wait for the court to come out with pronouncement on those issues. It is only that is the only way that that's the only way that is acceptable or that is allowed by law.
As it stands.
The point there is people are protesting. Of course, you have the right to protest, but why protest when you are already in court and then the court has not come up with the judgment. So it seems you're preempting the court already by feeling or sending a vibe or signal that the thing in the court may not go in our favor. That's why you're protesting.
Why are you even thinking it may not go in your favor when you have evidence?
You have evidence, so like we said, take it to court, leave it there. The court knows what to do. When they do the needful, then the outcome is what you might say, okay, it went this way, we are happy, or it went this way, we're not happy, so we are going to like we said, the moment the Supreme Court has said whatever they have said, let us assume that at the tribunal, they are not satisfied with the outcome. We are only assuming. And then they take it to the appeal. It's still not satisfied, take it to Supreme Court. As the case may, at that point, like we said, you take it to God in prayer. If you finish taking it to God in prayer and you know the way God answers prayers, it can take 1,000 years because his ways and our ways are very different. You could take 1,000 years. Right. So while you wait for the 1,000 years for God to answer, if at all, you begin to strategize for the next election.
That's what it is.
It's as simple as that.
Take the lessons and know where to adjust as it is moving forward. This is what we need in our democracy. But then it must be said that we must be cautious with our actions. and our statement.
Yeah.
Because if we plunge the nation into crisis by making insightful statements, it will not pay anyone at all. All of us will be involved.
We all get to lose.
We all get to lose at the end of the day. So it is important we allow the system run its course. And then where it doesn't favor you, you pick your pieces and learn your lessons, move on. That is what it is about our democracy. All right, we must take a break now. And coming up, all right, I hear we have more time to talk. So let's look at this matter of the 800 million that the government is receiving from the World Bank. Reactions are already coming the usual way. Nigerians are reacting. We haven't learned lessons from the Shopee and all of it. We've been injecting monies. This is just 6% of how much, the 6 trillion that we derive from the subsidy. And all of that, 2,000, they have broken it down to the fact that it is only 2,000 naira that Nigerians will receive, and it's just a one-off intervention. Well, what we were talking about yesterday.
Yes, but that 2,000, it is spread across all citizens. But recall that the money is not meant for all Nigerians.
Yes, it is meant for
about 50 million
Nigerians, but 10 million households.
10 million households. All right. Now, these are estimated calculations, right? These are estimated calculations because the point there is the names and everybody who is involved. Of course, they say they have the names and people who are involved
on the National Social Register.
Yeah. However, Nigerians are not necessarily satisfied by the openness and transparency by which it is carried out and conducted. Now, that is not to say they don't have genuine register and all of that. They have all of those. But you see, that feeling of the fact that this thing is being done the way they said it is done, it is when it's open and transparent and put out there that Nigerians are going to see, oh, this is how the thing is, and so on. Nobody has, as far as Nigerians are concerned, nobody has seen the list of people who benefit from this. When you say multidimensionally poor, or in fact, even unfortunately, some of these multidimensionally poor people, their names, they don't have data.
They are not in that National Social Register.
A lot of them don't. There's no data about them. So sometimes the agents, visit villages and township and then marketplaces, and then they share whatever they share. But we have always said that monies that are being shared like that, take your own. Take your own.
It's not sustainable.
It does not sustain anything because let us assume that they are giving 10,000 naira each, or they're giving 20,000 naira each. For someone who has been poor and who has been hungry for months or weeks, as the case may be, give that person 20,000 naira.
The first thing he will address is his stomach.
In fact, he will spend nothing less than 5,000 naira to eat first, to make up for all of the hunger that has been hammering him all the while. Good. Now, the rationale by the remaining 15,000, let us assume they're giving 20,000. The rationale of how to spend the remaining 15,000 to sustain him, of course, he will want to buy things that he didn't have imagination to buy before, and so on. Within 2 days or 3 days, that money is gone. So if that money is gone, or let us even assume 1 week, the money is gone. So what happens after that 1 week? So these are the issues. So if we have about $800 million, why can't we invest it in such a way that we make life better for the average Nigerian? And then some other monies, recall the Abacha loot that was returned to the country, the conditional cash transfer. We transferred the monies, giving people monies, handouts.
What's
here
the situation
and there.
of things
So
with
how,
those people?
How, even after that was carried out, the government agency, National Bureau of Statistics, came out to say that there's an increment in the number of people who are multidimensionally poor. So what happened to the money? So the point there is handing over monies to people will not solve the issue.
That's the issue that a lot of experts are raising, that we are not learning lessons from all of these handouts that we have been doing over the years. I mean, I was listening to the radio this morning, and a man who manufactures something was talking about the fact that he doesn't know what will happen in the next few months with regards to his business, and he has about 45 people working for him, and they have their families, you know, just that tree. And that this money should be given to people like him, who are manufacturers, who own businesses, who are helping families, that structure. And so on the table of stakeholders that will be having this conversation on how these monies will be utilized, we should have persons like the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria to talk about how they can perhaps benefit from that and, you know, spread these monies to the businesses. If we are saying we want to hand out these monies, I think it will be better utilized in such ways. Even labor should also be brought to the table to have a conversation on how we should disburse these monies. If we are looking at turnaround maintenance of refinery and that we want to inject that, well, that's another conversation. Some persons would say, we have been doing turnaround maintenance of refineries. We've been
for decades. For decades.
Where has that left us?
For decades.
So we should begin to perhaps look at other ways of utilizing monies such as this for the benefit of Nigerians.
Yes, I think there are ways. If we learn from India and learn from China and learn from a few other countries that have intentionally put up strategies to remove poverty or to reduce poverty, then we should know that it's not by handing out monies. Handing out monies don't help anybody.
At all.
And so if there's monies that is the 800 million naira is available, it can be available in terms of credit that people can access for different things.
Absolutely.
Because the point there is, those who are private sector people who are employing others, they are the ones contributing to the entire system.
Yeah.
But however, we know that there are people who are poor who have to be taken care of. There can be a better scheme of how to ensure that people are mopped up from the streets into different schemes that can make them create a sustainable, platform or template where they can get something from time to time.
Yes.
And then we can engage them. We can engage them in return, even if it is agriculture, where one way or the other, take these people to a certain farm location or farm settlement so that they are involved, they get credit, they get monies, and they're also putting in work somehow. So that is more productive than handing over monies like that.
All right.